The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. Introduction, Part 3. What it does. We should approach the study of this science rationally, never expecting to derive any benefits from it that its principle does not contain. For while it is true that we are immersed in an infinite intelligence, a mind that knows all things, it is also true that this intelligence can acquaint us with its ideas only as we are able and willing to receive them. The divine mind is infinite. It contains all knowledge and wisdom. But before it can reveal its secrets, it must have an outlet. This outlet we shall be compelled to supply through our own receptive mentalities. All invention, art, literature, government, law, and wisdom that has come to the race and has been given to it through those who have deeply penetrated the secrets of nature and the mind of God. Perhaps the simplest way to state the proposition is to say that we are surrounded by a mind, or intelligence, that knows everything, that the potential knowledge of all things exists in this mind, that the abstract essence of beauty, truth, and wisdom coexist in the mind of the universe. But we also exist in it and may draw from it. But what we draw from it, we must draw through the channel of our own minds. A unity must be established, and a conscious connection must be made before we can derive the benefits which the great mind is willing to reveal or impart to us. The Spirit can give us only what we can take. It imparts of itself only as we partake of its nature. It can only tell what we can understand. The infinite knowingness becomes our wisdom only in such degree as we embody its intelligence. It has been said that we can know God only in so far as we can become God. This is a far-reaching thought and should be carefully scrutinized. It is to be taken figuratively and not too literally, for we cannot really become God, but we can and do partake of the divine nature, and the universal does personify itself through man in varying degrees, according to man's receptivity to it. The universe, impersonal. The universe is impersonal. It gives alike to all. It is no respecter of persons. It values each alike. Its nature is to impart, ours to receive. When we stand in the light, we cast a shadow across the pathway of our own experience. Emerson advises that we get our bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits. A riddle of simplicity. It is a beautiful and true thought to realize that every man stands in the shadow of a mighty mind, a pure intelligence, and a divine givingness. Not alone unto the great comes the soft tread of the unseen guest. The arrogant have not perceived the simplicity of faith, but the pure in heart see God. The farmer has seen the heavenly host in his fields. The child has frolicked with him at play. The mother has clasped him to her breast, and the fond lover has seen him in the eyes of his beloved. We look too far away for reality. The intelligence by and through which we perceive that there is a spiritual presence and an infinite mind in the universe constitutes our receptivity to it and decides its flow through us. We have made a riddle out of simplicity. Therefore, we have not read the sermons written in stones, nor interpreted the light of love running through life. To return to a sane simplicity is one of the first and most important things to do. All men receive some light, and this light is always the same light. There is one nature diffused throughout all nature, one God incarnated in all peoples. The divine incarnation is inherent in our nature. We are immersed in an infinite knowingness. The question is, how much of this reality are we going to express in our own lives? The direct approach is always the best and the most effective. In so far as any man has spoken the truth, he has proclaimed God. It matters not what his particular approach may have been. The scientist and the philosopher, the priest and the professor, the humanitarian and the empire builder, All have caught some gleam of the eternal glory, and each has spoken, in his own tongue, that language which is of itself universal. Let us all do away with a ponderosity of thought and approach the thing simply and quietly. It is the nature of the universe to give us what we are able to take. It cannot give us more. It has given all. We have not yet accepted the greater gift. Spiritual wisdom says that God manifests through everything and is incarnated in all men, that all is divinity, and that nature herself is the body of God. The mechanical laws of nature are set and immutable, but the spontaneous recognition of these laws gives us the power to bring them into practical use in everyday life and experience. Here we have a dual unity: law and order, spontaneous choice, volition, conscious action, and automatic reaction. The laws of the universe are to be trusted, but we must come to understand them before we can use them. Once understood, any law is available and is impersonally responsive to each and all alike. Love rules through law. In an intelligent study of the teachings of the science of mind, we come to understand that all is love and yet all is law. Love rules through law. Love is the divine givingness. Law is the way. Love is spontaneous. Law is impersonal. We should study the nature of reality with this in mind, and in this way we shall avoid two grave mistakes: either viewing life as made up of only mechanical laws, or viewing it as made up of only spontaneous actions, irrespective of law and order. As we gain the broader viewpoint, we shall see that life must contain two fundamental characteristics. We shall see that there is an infinite spirit operating through an infinite and immutable law. In this, cosmos, and not chaos, finds an eternal existence in reality. Love points the way, and law makes the way possible. The scientific method. If we observe any scientific discovery, we shall see that this is the way it works. Some man's mind discovers the law or principle governing the science. This is the way of love, of personal volition, of choice. This is the spontaneous element in the universe. Following this knowledge of the way the principle works, having discovered the operation of the law, the spontaneous element now rests its case on immutable reactions inherent in the law. All science is based upon proven principles. But we should not overlook the significant fact that it is the mind which discovers and makes use of the mechanical law. Is not this mind the spirit in us? We can never completely fathom the infinite mind. We shall always be discovering new lands. Consequently, evolution is an eternal unfoldment of the more yet to be. Since it is the mind which must first come to see, know, and understand, and since all future possibility for the race must first find an avenue of outlet through someone's mind, we shall do well to look to the mind for the answer to all our problems. Undoubtedly, we are surrounded by and immersed in a perfect life, a complete, normal, happy, sane, harmonious, and peaceful existence. But only as much of this life as we embody will really become ours to use. As much of this life as we understand and embody will react as immutable law. The reaction of the mechanical to the volitional. The concept is wonderful and fraught with tremendous significance. In it is bound up our hopes and fears, our expectations, and our future and present realizations. Since an understanding of any law must pass first through our conscious mind before we can make use of it, it follows that with all our getting, we should get understanding. Should we wish to know a certain truth, we should state that this truth is already known in mind, and this statement will be true. But the overmind must be accepted into our mind before we can understand it. How then are we to accomplish the desired result? by stating and feeling that our mind knows the truth about the thing we desire to know. In this way, we draw the infinite mind into our mentalities for definite knowledge of some particular good. Contains all knowledge. The universal mind contains all knowledge. It is the potential ultimate of all things. To it, all things are possible. To us, as much as possible as we can conceive, according to law. Should all the wisdom of the universe be poured over us, we should yet receive only that which we are ready to understand. This is why some draw one type of knowledge and some another, and all from the same source, the source of all knowledge. The scientist discovers the principle of his science. The artist embodies the spirit of his art. The saint draws Christ into his being, all because they have courted the particular presence of some definite concept. Each state of consciousness taps the same source, but has a different receptivity. Each receives what he asks for, according to his ability to embody. The universal is infinite. The possibility of differentiating is limitless. Life always becomes to us the particular thing we need when we believe that it becomes to us that particular thing. The understanding of this is the essence of simplicity. As all numbers proceed from the fundamental unit, as all material forms are but different manifestations of one formless stuff, so all things proceed from that which is neither person, place, nor thing, but is of the essence of all things. Our thought and conscious receptivity differentiate this universal possibility by drawing it through our minds and causing it to flow into particular channels through the conscious receptivity of our different faiths. One state of consciousness will differentiate one kind of a result, another mental state a different manifestation. Mental work is definite. Mental work is definite. Each state of thought taps the same principle. Each uses the same law, is inspired by the same spirit, but each draws forth a different result. Here is multiplicity proceeding from unity. This is what Emerson meant when he said that unity passes into variety. But someone will ask, can we bring out both good and evil from the one source? Of course not. The first principle is goodness, and only insofar as our thought and action tend toward a constructive program will it eventually succeed. We cannot fight the universe. It refuses to be budged from its course. We can only go with it. But there is ample latitude for personal expression. How then are we going to know what is right and what is wrong? We are not going to know. We already do know. Every man knows right from wrong, in its broadest sense. It should be considered right to live and to enjoy living, to be well, happy, and to express freedom, is to be in accord with the divine law and wisdom. Here is latitude enough for the most expectant and the most enthusiastic. The principle, restated. Let us restate our principle. We are surrounded by an infinite possibility. It is goodness, life, law, and reason. In expressing itself through us, it becomes more fully conscious of its own being. Therefore, it wishes to express through us. As it passes into our being, it automatically becomes the law of our lives. It can pass into expression through us only as we consciously allow it to do so. Therefore, we should have faith in it, and its desires, and its ability to do for us all that we shall ever need to have done. Since it must pass through our consciousness to operate for us, we must be conscious that it is doing so. The one who wishes to demonstrate some particular good must become conscious of this particular good if he wishes to experience it. Therefore, he must make his mind receptive to it, and he must do this consciously. There is no hocus pocus in a mental treatment. It is always definite, conscious, concrete and explicit. We are dealing with intelligence and should deal with it intelligently. There is no occult trick in giving scientific treatments. It is just the reverse. Simplicity should mark our every effort, and positivity should accompany all statements that we make into the law of good. The secret, already known. A treatment is a statement in the law, embodying the concrete idea of our desires, and accompanied by an unqualified faith that the law works for us as we work with it. Let us waste no further time looking for the secret of success or the key to happiness. Already the door is open, and whosoever will may enter. Undoubtedly, each of us is now demonstrating his concept of life, but trained thought is far more powerful than untrained, and the one who gives conscious power to his thought should be more careful what he thinks than the one who does not. The more power one gives to his thought, the more completely he believes that his thought has power, the more power it will have. Treatment active, not passive. A treatment is an active thing. When one gives a treatment, he is not sitting around hoping that something may happen. He is definitely, constructively, actively stating, sensing, knowing some specific good. This is in accord with the principle which we seek to demonstrate. If we give treatments without a definite motive in mind, the most we can accomplish will be to promote a salutary atmosphere. A passive meditation will never produce an active demonstration, any more than an artist can paint a picture by sitting down with his paints but never using them. The mind must conceive before the creative energy can produce. We must supply the avenue through which it can work. It is ready and willing. It is its nature to spring into being through our thought and action. In an iron foundry, the pig iron is thrown into a great furnace and melted. That which was solid becomes liquid, and then is poured into molds which are fashioned in different shapes. The iron itself neither knows nor cares what particular form it takes. It is formless, ready to take any form supplied. If we did not place it in the proper molds, the liquid would assume no particular form. This is the way it is in dealing with the subtle energy of spirit. But the molds are made in our own subjective minds, through conscious and specific thought, purpose, and direction. We should be very careful not to think that because we make the mold, we must create the substance. It already exists. It is part of the life in which we live, a part of the universal energy. Definite molds or concepts decide the shape which is to be created from the general liquid. This should prove to us that there is a specific technique in mental treatment which we should not overlook. If we wish a certain good, we must instill into our minds a realization of this specific good, and then, as this idea is the mold we place in mind, it will be filled by the substance necessary for the complete manifestation of this good in our lives. Therefore, if a man is seeking to demonstrate, he must tell himself that he has faith in his power, in his ability, in the principle, and in the certainty of the demonstration for which he works. Faith, being a mental attitude, is according to law, and even though one doubts, he can overcome his doubts and create the desired faith, definitely. If this were not so, only those who by nature have faith in God could ever hope to understand the principle of the science of mind and spirit, which is subject to certain definite, immutable, and impersonal laws. However, even though faith is a necessary attitude, it is something that can always be established by explaining the theory and proving the principle. No mystery in truth. Faith in a certain specific statement has power consciously to oppose, neutralize, erase, and obliterate the opposite mental attitude. It is because of this fact that this study is a science that can definitely be used, and we must accept it as such. The mystery with which most people surround the search for truth relative to this principle is not read out of it, but is read into it. It stands to reason that if thought and faith, prayer, hope, and appreciation are anything at all, they are definite. And if they are definite, they must be specific. If they are specific, then they unquestionably must accomplish their desire. Hope, a subtle illusion. Many people correctly begin their treatment in this manner. I know that the principle of intelligence within me will direct me, etc. Then they complete it with the thought, well, I certainly hope it does. This is entirely forgetting any definite statement, and is simply wondering if possibly some good will come along. This is not a correct treatment, and is not the scientific use of this principle. Hope is good, it is better than despair, but it is a subtle illusion, and is an unconscious compromise, and has no part in an effective mental treatment. We should say to doubt, where did you come from? Who is your father? Etc. You have no place in my mind. Get out. I know that the faith within me now neutralizes all doubt. This is the scientific use of a mental statement. There must be no compromise with the consciousness. We have discovered what the principle is and how it works, and now this is what it does. Specifically, turn to that thought which tells us we do not know how to use it, and repudiate the falsehood. The principle that we have to demonstrate is perfect, and, insofar as we can compel the mind to perceive this perfection, so far it will automatically demonstrate. Experience has proved this to be true. We waste much time in arguing over things that cannot be answered. When we have arrived at the ultimate, that is the ultimate. It is the way the thing works. Therefore, we have a right to say that there is a law involved, and that this law executes the word. We discover laws, find out how they work, and then begin to use them. Therefore, this question is answered when we say it is the nature of thought and of the creative energy, and the nature of being, to be this way. We would say that law is an attribute of God. God did not make the law. It coexists with the eternal. The infinite law and the infinite intelligence are but two sides of the infinite unity. One balances the other, and they are the great personal and impersonal principles in the universe. Evolution is the outworking of the mechanical, and involution is the inworking of the conscious and the volitional. No limit to thought. When we think, something happens to thought. The field through which thought operates is infinite. There is no reason to doubt it. No matter how it is approached, to thought there can be no limit, so we will say that it is the nature of being to react in this way. Here and now, we are surrounded by and immersed in an infinite good. How much of this infinite good is ours? All of it. And how much of it may we have to use? As much of it as we can embody. End of part 3. And so, building upon part 1 and 2 of the introduction, Ernest Holmes is making it very clear that the way the law and the life of the spirit work together as one. As we discussed before, there's the conscious mind, which is your volition. That's where you have freedom of choice. And that's where you're aware. And that's your intelligence. That's the part of you that is one with God and has the power to direct your word into the law. And the law is the mechanical aspect of nature. It's the receptive part. It's the counterpart to the conscious mind. And it receives all of the thoughts that you put into it. And it creates whatever thoughts you put into it. It manifests them. It's not conscious that it's doing this. It's an automatic thing. It just happens. But it's an exact thing. The law will give you the exact result of what you put into it. So, just like he talked about melting down the iron, The iron doesn't know or care what shape it's going to take. And if you don't put it into any mold, it won't ever take any definite form. It's the same with our thoughts. If we just go around thinking random thoughts and we never direct our thoughts consciously, then our life is just going to be a bunch of random forms because we didn't put anything specific into the law. Or if sometimes we speak one way and another times we speak in opposition to that, we're never going to get a clear manifestation of anything. And he also says that trained thought is highly more effective than untrained thought. So it's just so much more powerful to be intentional about what we're putting into our consciousness and where we're directing the law. And none of this just happens. It's not passive. It's a very active, deliberate, and intentional thing. And that's what he calls treatment. And treatment's a 5-step process. It's a wonderful process. It's an exact science. And when I'm done reading this book, I will teach you how to do a spiritual mind treatment. And it's very exciting because with a spiritual mind treatment, you can literally manifest anything in the world that you want. And like Ernest Holmes says, there is no limit to this. It's only what we can embody. So we have to believe and we have to have faith. And it's not a blind faith. By the time we're done with this book, you'll be able to have faith because you'll have understanding and knowledge that this is an exact science. And then we don't have to have hope. We don't have to just hope that it will work. We'll know that it works because we understand the process. And we also can increase our faith by demonstrating that this does work. If you do a treatment and then the results come, now you have faith because you see that it works. So you don't have to hope that it works or wish that it would work. So never forget that this is an exact science and there's no hocus pocus, there's no magic. This is just the way the universe works. And I'm so excited to get on to the next part.